Hello, today we're going to have a look at the Dark Star. This is part of the Top Gun Maverick downloadable content for Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's a high altitude prototype reconnaissance aircraft, I guess, a fictional reconnaissance aircraft that appears in the movie Top Gun Maverick. And we're going to take it for a flight in Microsoft Flight Simulator and see how it goes. So it's reportedly capable of Mach 10, but the route to getting there is quite prescribed, so I'm just going to walk you through that. Okay, so let's go and get inside the aircraft, and you can see inside the aircraft you don't have any view forwards, so you do have a forward-facing camera in the nose, which you get to use for reference. So how do we get this thing started? To begin with, we switch the batteries on. That gives us power to all of the instruments. We then go and start the APU, which is down here. And again, it'll be a few seconds until that becomes ready. So while we're waiting for that, we're going to turn the beacon lights on. And you will notice if we look outside, actually, the beacon lights stand proud of the aircraft. So we will need to retract them once we get in the air for high-speed flight. Okay, so the APU is now ready. So we can start the engines. So there's two switches above which start both jet engines. So you can see the percentages coming up on the RPM here, and the exhaust gas temperature is raising. So this aircraft is a scramjet. If you've never heard of the term scramjet before, a scramjet is a very specific design of jet engine where essentially the gas turbine can be switched off at high speed, and there's no moving parts required. You inject fuel into the airflow and ignite it, and just the airflow through the engine, hypersonic air in, can be pushed out of the back end of the engine, and it's an incredibly fast, powerful and efficient method of making an engine. The unfortunate problem with the scramjet is they only work at high Mach numbers, so we need to get to Mach 3 before we can even use it. So, and because of that, the route to getting to Mach 3 is actually quite prescribed. Okay, so we've got the engines running. We're going to turn the generators on, and the reason we have the generators is because there is this fuel cell that provides the fuel for the scramjet itself. Once we've got the engines and the generators on, we can turn the APU back off. We can go and turn on the landing lights just for takeoff. That's just the nose wheel light, really, because normally this plane would operate in the dark, but obviously we're not operating in the dark. So we're going to take the parking brake off, ease the throttle forwards and start rolling. So we are on the ground at Edwards Air Force Base. So we're going to taxi out to the main runway. We're going to take off very carefully. Don't want to scratch it. And then we'll fly a circular pattern around Edwards to get to high altitude and hopefully Mach 3. So you will notice our method of getting to Mach 3 is not going to be obvious. We're going to do a controlled dive basically, and then climb back out at Mach 3 and then engage the scramjet. But getting above Mach 1 is quite kind of an odd routine you have to go through to get that to happen, because the entire airframe is designed for hypersonic travel, or many times the speed of sound. It doesn't do so well at low speeds, and the engine design is such that you don't get as much thrust out of the engines until you're travelling at extreme high speed. So getting into that regime or that realm of speed is quite challenging, but once you get there the aircraft almost accelerates on its own. It's very cool. So you will notice as we get higher altitude and get faster and faster, the plane will pick up speed seemingly all on its own, and that's just purely because we're getting into the realm that it's designed for. Okay, let's go and have a look outside. So just rolling out onto the runway here at Edwards. Again, we just use the screen from this point on. Look out the window as we're climbing out. Okay, so let's go for... I'm not going to take off tremendously quickly. We should be able to rotate at about 180 to 200 knots. Remember, this aircraft doesn't have any flaps. Okay, so we're going to begin rotating. And we're up. Gear up. And while we're climbing out, I'm going to turn off those beacon lights. I'm going to get it ready for high-speed flight straight away. Remove the landing lights. So we are now a very sleek shape climbing out of Edwards Air Force Base. Okay, let's go for 100% military thrust and see how that does on the speed. So we're climbing up through 300 knots, indicated. Mach 0.5 has just gone through. So I'm going to begin doing a right turn. So we'll continue this kind of 20-degree circling flight path. Okay, we're going to go for full reheat now. So you can see the airplane kicked then as it got the thrust. So you can see the Mach number is coming up. 0.7, 0.75, 0.8. Let's just level this out slightly and pull the nose up a little bit. So we're looking for about 30,000 feet, and then we will descend gently. So if you look on the various buttons here, you've got obviously resources available here. You can also see a diagram of a flight plan to follow, which we are kind of following, not too closely, but it doesn't make too much difference. So you've got a G meter over here. It's worth pointing out you really do need to trim the aeroplane out before you engage the scramjet, because the acceleration when it kicks in will be enormous. Just coming up to 30,000 feet. Mach 0.91 still. Remember what I said about this thing's designed for speed? It doesn't operate very well at low speeds. So we'll come up to about 36,000 feet, and then we'll roll in gently into a shallow dive. And then we turn that shallow dive slowly around. Okay, so we've just gone through Mach 1. Mach 1.1. 1.2. Remember what I said, the faster we get, the more powerful the engines become. Purely because of their aerodynamic design. So we're now pulling back stick quite a lot, 2G, pulling this out hopefully before we get down to 20,000 feet. Then we start gently climbing, and it will continue to accelerate. Ideally we get to about 60-70,000 feet at Mach 3. Okay, so while that's happening, let's have a look outside. You can see the high desert around Edwards is flashing past. Just coming up for Mach 1.85, 1.9. Mach 2. Let's get this a bit higher. So we're going to pull a pretty high G turn. You see it's accelerating harder and harder. 20-degree climb. We're going to straighten out in a moment. Once we switch the scramjet on, there will be no turning. Okay, Mach 3. So, straighten up. .2. Are you ready? So we switch on the fuel cell, which provides the fuel mixture, you know, the air, gas-air mixture for the scramjet, and then we enable the scramjet. Watch the Mach number. It takes a few seconds before it kicks in. There it goes. So we want to roll this back over to fairly near level now before we get too high. So that's the gas turbines have just shut down. We are now operating on the scramjet entirely. So I'm just going to pull a fairly high G turn to get us back to level. About 150,000 feet. Right, Mach 5. Mach 5.5. Mach 6. Mach 7. Mach 8. So you have to be at the correct altitude to get to Mach 10 basically. So if we go for that, we'll lower down in the sky slightly and go for Mach 10. Just dropping gently.
Salinas Airport information Golf 1300 Zulu. Wind tree 01 at 7. Visibility tree. Sky condition ceiling 1,700 feet overcast. Temperature 1 tree.
So that's the San Francisco Bay coming.
Altimeter 29.901. ILS runway
Just looking at
31 in use.
the altitude. We don't want to get too low. Coming up from Mach 9.
Say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact UF Golf.
Just leveling us out. We're doing a 3G pull-up, and all it's doing is just leveling us out. Mach 9.1.
Visibility tree. Sky condition ceiling 1,700 feet overcast.
So
Temperature.
if we can have a look outside, you can see the aircraft is actually heated up.
Altimeter 29.901. ILS runway tree 1 in use. Landing and departing runway tree 1. VFR aircraft say direction of
Obviously it's
flight.
supersonic, so we're not hearing anything.
Read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact.
Okay, let's go for some altitude, shall we? We're at 130,000 feet at the moment. So let's see what this will do if we pull back. So we're going to pulling a 3G.
Ceiling 1,700 feet overcast. Temperature 1 tree. 2.10.
Pulling the pitch up gently.
29.901. ILS runway tree 1 in use. Landing and departing runway tree 1.
Look at the altitude.
VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact UF Golf.
Let's roll it over so we can see what's going on out there. Starting to see the curvature of the Earth outside. Coming up for 200,000 feet. Still doing Mach 9 and we're accelerating. Absolute madness, isn't it? So we're going to pull over and try to pull it back in. Mach 9.95, even with a 2.5G pullover going on. So I'm just trimming the nose down to zero out the G. It's very odd, isn't it? And this is why I'm not going to go back and land anywhere, because yeah, it would be an interesting exercise to to slow down, but you saw it on takeoff. It's actually quite docile at kind of the 250 knot range. You would land probably at 200 knots, so similar to a starfighter in that regard. But there you go, this is the Dark Star, and this is what it does basically. It flies in a very straight line, very, very fast. So we're still holding above Mach 8, which is quite cool. Okay, I don't think there's much else to say about it, to be honest. It's just very, very, very fast. Yeah, look, it's getting into its sweet spot again for acceleration. Around the 120,000 foot mark, it started picking up speed again. So it has particular regions of altitude where it works. Mach 0.9 or 9.6. So let's see if we can straighten this up and stop it diving at the floor. It's holding Mach number at the moment because I'm pulling quite hard on the stick. Just releasing it. Okay, I think that's probably enough. You've seen the Dark Star, that's what it does. It's a bit of a one-trick pony, to be honest. Makes some nice rumbly noises. But it has scramjet engines. It does kind of simulate. You can see through the engine from the front to the back. There's no moving parts going on. When the gas turbine's done its job, it's just the air going in the front and being ignited and coming out the back. So that's really all that goes on in a scramjet. And of course it goes extremely fast in doing so. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. So that's the Dark Star.